What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is we're slowly reaching that 100 episode mark. So we're just enjoying music, and we've been doing this since 2020, which is crazy to me. I was just thinking about that the other day, and crazy how 3 years now go by, and I've met so many amazing artists, heard so many amazing stories, and heard a lot of great new music out there. And that's just at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And I was just kind of having this conversation with this artist today, is talking about making those connections in the music business and just sharing stories and stuff like that. So today I welcome Lexi Gail to the show. Lexi, how are you today?
Hi, it's so good to be here. I'm pretty good, just keeping busy. It's been a good start to the year, lots of co-writes and shows and all the good stuff. So I'm doing pretty
No,
good.
yeah, no, and that's awesome. That's always a great way to start the year. And that's kind of what I've been doing too. I've been doing the podcast and stuff like that, but then really just diving into a lot of co-writes and just creating new music because 2022, yeah, 2023, if I can speak today, that's a try saying that 10 times fast. But yeah, no, just creating new music is really kind of what the drive is right now. And I think that's
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of the motivation, and that's where everything's kind of going to lead to today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So kind of hopping right into the first question is always the basic of basics, and it really kind of just sets up the whole story and kind of sets up the whole interview is where did everything start for you? Because I know for some people it starts the day they were born. They start humming nursery rhymes and it just
Yeah.
slowly progresses from there. But then I always like to compare it to someone like myself who really only started the whole songwriting and producing aspect of things back in 2018. So that was only 5 years ago. But kind of for you, where did everything come about for you?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm kind of one of the first people you mentioned where it just came really naturally as a kid. So, my great grandfather was a singer, performer, played guitar. My grandmother was the same. She had a production company called Clubhouse Kids, and so she would basically write musicals, write movies. She would, throw me in. Basically, starting at 2 years old, I was singing and acting on a stage. And then my dad actually was a touring artist. So he was like a top 40 country artist back in the era of like Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton coming up,
Mm.
like around 2008. And so I grew up on a tour bus with him, like touring the country, him throwing me up on stage. It was just a lot of musical family, I think, that really just gave me permission to see music as a career because I think I always would have loved it regardless. But knowing that there was a possibility to make it a life for myself and something that I could do day in and day out and connect with so many people doing. I just always kind of knew that that was a possibility for me because of my family members. And so, yeah, I started writing songs when I was 6, which is pretty much when I learned how to write. So I think I always just had this desire to share and this desire to put my experiences on paper because I'm a little bit of an introvert unless I am doing the stage thing and I am sharing my music. It just tends to break down this really weird, awkward wall and it gets rid of a lot of the small talk. And so people can hear me at a round and just come up and talk to me and be like, I resonate with this and share their story. And then it just really creates this opportunity for connection that I just appreciate so much about music. And yeah, it's just, gone from there. I've been performing, writing, recording my whole life. So
No, and that's awesome. And like that's what I
yeah,
always love asking that question first, because you can sit there and listen to an artist and like check them out on Spotify, Apple Music and stuff like that and be like,
yeah,
wow, like their music's like really cool. But at the end of the day, to me, it's always kind of exciting to hear that part of the story from the artist, is hearing where they started with everything and how everything kind of came about for them.
yeah,
And then I know you had kind of mentioned like Carrie Underwood and Blake Shelton a few minutes ago, and that's kind of lead into this next question a little bit, is talking
yeah.
about inspirations.
Mhm.
People know I could sit here for hours and make a whole other podcast just talking about inspirations. I mean, Chris
Yeah,
Daughtry, one of my all-time favorite rock
Chris
and roll
Daughtry.
artists.
Ooh, so
I
good.
literally my favorite of all time. And then I mean, obviously you mentioned Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton, but then just some of those other guys from like the '90s, early 2000s, like Tim McGraw, Garth Brooks, Jason Aldean, a lot
Mhm.
of them, a lot of my favorites. But
Yeah.
kind of for you, are who are some of your inspirations that kind of really inspired you along the way and still inspire you to this day to really kind of just create music?
Mhm. Well, I admire so many different artists for so many reasons, but I think growing up, just because my dad was more in the country genre, I was very influenced by like Martina McBride, Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood for sure. and some of those really just great, powerful singers. I know I'm probably missing a few right now, and I'll, kick myself for it later. But a lot of those women really shaped me. And then Kelly Clarkson and Pink were very big for me as well growing up, and also Amy Lee, who's the head of Evanescence. And so like I got some genres in there, a little rock, a little pop, a little country, and I feel like you feel that in my voice depending on what I'm doing. But then Adele came along, and also for those of you who are familiar with the artist Birdie, she isn't unique. She's not based in the United States, but she's been in a lot of soundtracks for really popular movies, and just has this really, really unique thing going with like the piano vocal. And so I take influences from a lot of different places, and now there's so many cool new artists like Lizzie McAlpine and Olivia Rodrigo, and it's cool to have like powerful female voices. And I mean, there's a lot of men that I'm influenced by as well, like Blake Shelton or Chris Daughtry, and a lot of the more like kind of rock and roll bands. For whatever reason, that's kind of like the male voice that I tend to gravitate towards. And so yeah, a lot of influences. I could, like you said, I could probably go on for days. So.
No, exactly. I could literally sit
Yeah.
here for 2 hours and talk to you about each one, but
Yeah.
it's always cool just to kind of hear that. And I love how you have so many different genres like kind of
Yeah.
mixed together in your influences, because like I'll interview like a pop artist or a country artist and they just give me inspirations from those genres that they're in.
Yeah.
And like I respect that at the end of the day. Like that's the lane they want to go down, but I
Yeah.
always tell people is there's 4 lanes on a highway for a reason, because you
Yeah.
can kind of switch and go into whatever kind of lane you want to go in. If you want to stay in the
Yeah.
slow lane and kind of just keep at the pace that you're going, then go for it. But you can kind of swerve it. Well, don't swerve people, but you can kind of put your directional on
Yeah.
and
But
go
you
into
can
those
test
other
out different
lanes
things. Yeah.
and kind
And
of experience some of those other genres, because it can
yeah.
influence you and really change your dynamic when it comes to singing and songwriting.
Yeah, it really has. And I mean, Taylor Swift too. I think in
Absolutely.
recent years, I've gravitated towards her writing and the way that like she can use her voice and the range that she has to just do really cool things with it, and like the emotion in her voice. And so, yeah, like there's just so much you can glean from people like her who have done that thing where they test out different sides of the fence and different genres. I think that that's something I really admire. And so, yeah, it's something I've always wanted to be able to do as well with my career. I don't want to be in like one specific lane. I
Yeah.
want to be able to be a little more fluid than that. And so my influences definitely represent that.
No, and that's
Yeah.
awesome. And kind of talking about what you just mentioned is the songwriting, like from Taylor Swift and just any of these artists in general, is really the storytelling aspect behind songwriting is what really drives me to an artist. And I mean, listening to some of your songs from Spotify, and then you sent me your SoundCloud link and stuff like that, is just your storytelling aspect is just so powerful. And then, like I said too, we were kind of talking about this before we started the interview, is just you and the piano is just like it's top notch. And I said before we started, I'm like, I just met you like 30 seconds ago, and I was like, how are you not touring worldwide right now? Like it's mind blowing to me. But kind of talking about the creative process here, because you have a lot of really cool songs in the works and you have some out right now, and just what is your creative process like? Because I know for some artists there is no rhyme or reason. Some people start with melody and work on the lyrics from there, or some people like myself who love lyrics, I start with those and then worry about the melody when it comes time for that. But for
Yeah.
you, how does your kind of whole creative process work?
It really just depends, honestly. I bounce back and forth between like my guitar, my piano, and then sometimes I'll like write poems and I'll kind of start more on that lyrical aspect as well. Um, a lot of the time, what I do is I just kind of sit down and I start playing a bunch of random notes on the piano or on the guitar, just like strumming away, doing things that like definitely aren't actually musical. And I almost just like wait for something to hit me. Or if I have like a really strong concept idea, sometimes I'll just like write out a sentence that kind of will encompass where I see a song going. And if I'm really passionate about it in the moment, that will kind of cue me on to just hit the right notes and find the right energy for a song. But yeah, I find that I definitely write the best when I am like pulling from my own experiences or writing about like a friend's experience or someone that I personally know. And yeah, I try to pull from my life as much as I can, because that's where I find like the most inspired songs of mine that people tend to connect with the most. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And I really connect with that too, because that's how I wrote, a lot of people know that's how I wrote my first ever song was Back to When, about losing my grandfather back in 2018. And that's
Yeah.
really what got me into the whole music scene. And at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's a song about losing someone that you love. And if you can connect with thousands of people, that's great. But when I wrote that song and when I really started in the music business, I just want to connect with that one or two people that really
Yeah,
say, hey, like your song just like really helped me out a lot, or it really motivated me, depending what kind of like song it is. But it's
for
always
sure.
just really cool to kind of see how artists go about their creative process and what they want people to take away from their lyrics in their stories.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's such a cool thing too. And like one of the constant reasons I'm so drawn to music as a career and not just as a hobby is that, even if I play a song that I wrote in my bedroom for one round and I never play it again and I never record it, just knowing that there's people in that room who like have that shared experience with me that have like spoken to me about it and messaged me about it. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time. And that's what just tells me I'm doing the right thing with my life is people do get to resonate and take pieces out of what I'm doing. And even if my experience is unique to me, there's so many feelings that we all share collectively that it just like you give people words for things that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I think that's a really cool gift that like we get to have as musicians, all of us, we get to put things into words for people that maybe are like, working at a bank or working at a grocery store or do something completely different. And yeah, I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, no, and it's super, super special to really just have that and be able to connect and then have those people reach out and tell you that. It means more to me than I know what to do with, and I know it probably does the same for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just like it's hard to put into words like how grateful I really am when people take the time out of their day to do that because it means so much. And I try to be somebody who does that to other people as well, like artists that I care about and that I'm experiencing. Like as much as we can encourage each other, it's a tough world. Like music is a great thing, but it is a really tough world to navigate. And so it means a lot just to like anybody listening who is fans of music, just keep encouraging musicians. It just makes life so incredible and it gives us this inspiration to like keep knowing that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And kind of what you just said too is like navigating and stuff like that. The super, super hard thing sometimes for artists is the music industry itself is super hard to navigate. And
Oh yeah.
obviously you definitely know that and I know that, but it's hard sometimes to really get your name out there because like
Yeah.
social media is like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. Like you're
Mhm.
posting and being like, hey, this is who I am, like this is my music, check it out. But at the same time, there's 100 other artists that are literally posting at the same time as you saying, hey, no, this is who I
Yeah.
am. Come check me out too. So it's hard to really just get your name out there. And it kind of
Yeah.
leads into this fourth question is it's always the hardest question I ask. And artists usually hate it, but I say thank God I'm the one asking the questions and not answering because I'm not sure if I could answer this one. But when it comes to the end of the day, there's hundreds and thousands of artists out there, like I just said, but
Yeah.
what makes you compared to all these other artists and kind of what can we take away from your music that we're not going to find in other artists' music?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely a question, but I don't really shy away from stuff like that, and not even just for myself, but for any artist that really loves what they do. I feel like there's things that are going to make me unique, and then there's things that are going to make the person next to me unique. And for I think what I have to offer, it's been an interesting few years in my life, to say the least, since about 2019 to like the end of 2022. I I have a really broad range of experiences that I've gone through between like messy family dynamics, like parents getting divorced, a really bad narcissistic relationship, a healthy relationship that just kind of went off the walls at the end suddenly. I've gone through a range of health issues. I've had several surgeries, several diagnoses, and some mental health stuff as well, and a lot of trials with friendships and a lot of growth with friendships. And so I think what's special about my life is just that it's my life. And I know the kind of music I like to write. I know the kinds of people that connect to it. And I feel like anybody who's going through something difficult or challenging, especially like being somebody in their early 20s with chronic health issues, I found that that is something that really sticks out in my story and that a lot of people like will resonate to. And I had no idea how many of us there were. And so between like just all the things like graduating college in a pandemic, struggling with money, struggling to get a career going, like I've just been given so many incredible experiences, and like it's weird to call a lot of them incredible, but I'm also a faith-based person, and so I just really feel like God has been just kind of on me these last few years. Like, hey, are you really gleaning all of the fruit and like all of the like the nuance in these spaces that I've allowed you to sit in, so that you can share it, so that you can connect. And I think that's the thing that's unique about me, is just simply my story and the way that I share my story. I'm a very piano vocal, guitar vocal, organic based artist, and I care a lot about lyrics. And so just sharing my experiences as I'm living them, I feel like it gives me like an authenticity that a lot of the people that have enjoyed my music really are drawn to.
Yeah, no, and honestly, that's awesome. That's more one of my more favorite answers that you just gave, because it's just really what, like, listening to all your songs, like I said, from Spotify and on SoundCloud and stuff like that, you can just hear those experiences and you can hear the heart that you pour into it and the emotions that you pour into it and everything. And it just like I mean, I sound like a broken record, but just vocals and piano are two of my favorite things in the whole world. Like
Me
those two
too.
just coming together and creating magic, just it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. And your vocals, I mean, are just crazy and super talented. And I always kind of tell a couple artists this is, at the end of the day, for someone like you can put yourself in a lineup or a playlist or whatever of 100 different artists, but at the end of the day, when your song comes on, I know, I'm like, hey, that's Lexi Gail, like that's what she does, that's how she does it. And you know, you're just a super talented artist and you definitely stand out, and I just love what you're doing.
I appreciate that a lot. And you know, it takes character to develop your thing. And so that's what I always tell like the younger artists that I hang out with or I get coffee with. It's just like we all have experiences, and the more you lean into the life that you're living and the things that come your way, the better your artistry becomes. And so it's really just listening to yourself and processing your feelings and your emotions, and just being so open and so aware of yourself. And it's a pain, but it's really really worth it, you know.
No, absolutely, 100%. So kind of getting to the last question real quick is before we hear some live music from you, which is always my favorite part. But we've talked
Yeah.
about kind of your journey to how you got here now. But kind of looking towards your
Mm.
future a little bit is for this last question is, you have a few songs out on Spotify, you have some demos and stuff out on SoundCloud and stuff like that. But what are some of your short-term and long-term goals, and just what else can we expect down the road from you?
Oh gosh. Well, ooh, I went through a bit of a period, probably over the last year, where I was trying so hard and it felt like nothing was working out, and I was really discouraged. And I found that for myself, when I was in like my very, very lowest place mentally and physically, that the one thing I still wanted to do was music. And so as for like what that's going to mean in my future, I really hope that I can just take my career as far as it'll possibly go. There's been times where the thought of like actually like blowing up or going viral was really, really scary to me, just because I enjoy the freedom of like, I can go to the grocery store, nobody knows who I am, and I can live my life. And I don't have to worry if people are trying to be my friends because they think I'm famous. You know, like those are a lot of things that in my head kind of freak me out. And I'm sure that they will continue to, even if I really do gain traction. But I think after everything that I've gone through to get to this point here today, I want to go as far as I can. And so I am working on an EP right now that kind of talks about the last relationship that I went through, and more so just to like capture like the way that I love somebody. I think the way that I love somebody is really beautiful. And so it's going to be kind of themed around that, just like walking through that experience in my life because it was really impactful. And so I'm hoping to have that out in a few months. I am releasing a song on Valentine's Day called The Movies. So I'm hoping that'll be really fun. It's a pretty universal song for just people who have normal life love stories, who really think that what they have is special and maybe don't have like a Hallmark movie about them or like a big soundtrack to their life, but just know that they have something special and beautiful. And so that's kind of my next thing that will be coming out on the 14th. And beyond that, I'm, trying to like maybe audition for a few shows and just keep doing rounds and keep doing shows and co-writes and releasing music, and just finally, like, I'm in a space health wise where I can really grind. And so that's so important to me. And getting to talk to people like you, that's definitely a really big plus for me, and just sharing my story and talking about what music means to me. So basically, as far as I can go, I'm doing that, and I'm taking all the baby steps right now and just keeping on the grind.
No, absolutely. And I mean, like I said, you're super, super talented. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, and just I can't wait for more to come. And I can't wait for a show up here in Boston at some point, because I'll be
Oh,
getting
I
front
love
row.
it.
I'll be getting
If you
front
know
row
a good
seats.
venue, if you know a good venue, let me know. I'll come right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you want to come right now. It's like -20 here right now, but maybe we'll wait till the summertime until it's a little warmer.
Yeah,
But
give it a few months.
no,
That's
but
fair.
thank you so much, Lexi, just kind of for sitting here and talking about your story and stuff like that. And now it kind of gets to the good part of the show, is hearing a live song from you. So kind of what I'll do is I'll put myself on mute, and kind of the floor is yours if you want to just let us know a little bit about what song you're doing, and other than that, you are good to go.
All right, cool. Whew. Well, I have this little microphone that'll give me a little more reverb. I love reverb. Okay, so this song, I wrote it a few years ago when I was in my first serious relationship. I didn't really know how to express needs. I was somebody who very much wanted to meet everybody else's needs, and I didn't even know what mine were. So there was no way I could explain them. And so I was in a relationship with somebody who was really good at taking, but had no idea how to give back to me. And I didn't know how to set those boundaries. And so a few months before we broke up, I wrote this song. And yeah, I lost it in the archives for a few years, but it really was special to me and something that I wanted to release back when I was in school. And so after all this pandemic stuff that happened and getting back on my feet, it just kind of found me again. And I've really been enjoying playing it for people and just talking about where I am now compared to where I was when I wrote this song. And so healing is possible is what I like to tell people before I sing it, because I am on that side of things where I've healed so much. But yeah, so if anybody resonates with this song, there is just so much growth for you. And the first step to growing is knowing that you deserve to be seen and loved and known and cherished, and to have somebody hear you and know how to meet your needs as well as have you meet their own. So this is called She.
She came from the suburbs, a Florida girl with a Nashville heart, who always loved too much. She said she had no type, but knew that blue eyes made her smile. Said she'd never found someone till he found her that night. Yeah, she was flying when he swooped in. Never would know she was always alone. She danced across the floor and he kept wanting more, and she was flying. She broke down her walls and let him in without much thought, and gave him more than she had to give. He never understood how to love her like he should have, and never did he have a clue that she was crying when he was trying. Never would know she wasn't never heard. She couldn't speak her mind, and he could never find why she was crying.
I mean, it started way back. If you guys have been tuning in since Kelly and Kat, two sisters, super, super amazing. They both did a performance on the show, and like I just said, it's either chills or go home from that episode till now. And yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this. Like I got chills. Like just your vocals are so, so crazy. And like I love what you're doing. And I just like I said, like it's crazy how this girl is not on tour right now. Like I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me in my mind, like how you're not touring worldwide.
Oh man. Well, hopefully one day. Definitely some fingers crossed for that moment. It's a dream of mine. So I
No,
appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
of course. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to sit here, do a little performance for us, and talk about your story through music. It just always means a lot for artists to really just sit here, take time out of their busy lives and days just to be able to do this. And it means a lot to me. So thank you for kind of doing this today.
Oh, well, thank you for like not just interviewing me, but all the artists. Like it really is so cool to get to talk to somebody who gets music, but also wants to highlight other people. So thank you for having me. It's really
No,
cool.
of course. So kind of before I do my little outro here, for people that are tuning into this episode and stuff and want to go check you out, where can we go find you on social medias?
Well, pretty much everything is Lexi Gail Music. So that's Lexigail Music. I've got a TikTok, an Instagram, a Facebook page, and a YouTube, pretty much all the things. So if you just search that into the internet, it'll bring up most of that stuff. And that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Again, people definitely go check out Lexi Gail. She's got a couple of songs out and she's got a lot more on the way and just can't wait to see what else is going to happen for you. So again, Lexi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. So that kind of concludes another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got new music, new artists, new stories. Never know who's going to pop through. So y'all stay tuned for next week. And thanks for tuning in today.